Welcome to the human condition. Today we enter one of the most captivating mysteries of human thought, the question of beauty. For centuries, philosophers, poets, and artists have struggled to define what beauty is and why it matters. Is beauty a universal truth, written into the cosmos itself, something eternal and unchanging? Or is it a cultural invention, shaped by human stories, traditions, and desires? Plato once argued that beauty was a pathway to the divine, a pure form that transcends earthly appearances. Aristotle, more grounded, emphasized proportion and harmony, believing beauty emerges from order. Religious traditions, too, frame beauty as something holy. Christianity links beauty to God's glory. Islam finds it in art and calligraphy, and Hinduism celebrates it in divine play. Literature reminds us of beauty's paradoxes. Shakespeare immortalized beauty in sonnets, while Kahlil Gibran described it as eternity gazing at itself in a mirror. Yet modern psychology shows us how beauty ideals shift with time and culture, from ancient Greece to today's digital age. This video asks, is beauty truly universal, or is it a mirror of our societies? We will explore philosophy, religion, literature, and science to understand what beauty means. And as we do, we may discover not only what beauty is, but why we are drawn to it so powerfully. At the heart of the debate lies the question of universality versus subjectivity. Can beauty be measured and defined, or is it endlessly relative? Philosophers like Plotinus believed beauty was not just perception, but the radiance of truth itself, a metaphysical reality shining through form. Mathematicians point to the golden ratio, which appears in seashells, sunflowers, and even galaxies, suggesting a universal design principle. Some evolutionary psychologists argue that certain features, symmetry in faces, health, and vitality, are universally attractive because they signal survival and fertility. Yet anthropology challenges this claim. Across cultures, ideals of beauty vary wildly. In one society, pale skin is prized. In another, deep tans are celebrated. Some cultures elongate the neck or scar the body in ways outsiders may not understand. Even Shakespeare reminds us that standards shift. His Elizabethan world found beauty in pale skin and fair hair, quite different from today's ideals. Religions, too, diverge. Buddhism warns against attachment to beauty, while Christianity elevates inner beauty and virtue. This raises a profound question. When we find something beautiful, are we responding to something eternal, or simply echoing the values of our culture and time? Philosophy has long treated beauty as a problem of both perception and meaning. Plato believed beauty was a gateway to truth, an eternal form we glimpse through art, nature, and love. His student Aristotle shifted the focus to harmony, symmetry, and order, claiming beauty was grounded in the balance of parts. Centuries later, Plotinus expanded Plato's vision, seeing beauty as the radiance of the Divine One. In the Enlightenment, Kant introduced a radical idea. Beauty is subjective, but when we call something beautiful, we expect others to agree. This paradox, that beauty is felt but also shared, remains central to debates today. Nietzsche, in The Birth of Tragedy, saw beauty as born from tension between Apollonian order and Dionysian chaos. For him, beauty was not only structure, but also intensity, even suffering. Later philosophers like Heidegger suggested beauty reveals truth, while others like Adorno critiqued how culture manipulates beauty for power. Literature reinforces these tensions. Shakespeare's sonnets celebrate beauty's endurance through art, while Kahlil Gibran suggests beauty is both eternal and fleeting. These philosophical traditions suggest beauty is not one answer, but many, each reflecting the human struggle to make sense of the world. Religion has always treated beauty as more than decoration. It is often a glimpse of the divine. In Christianity, beauty is seen as one of the transcendentals, inseparable from truth and goodness. Cathedrals, icons, and hymns exist to reflect God's glory and inspire awe. In Islam, beauty flows through calligraphy, architecture, and the rhythm of the Quran, which is itself revered as an aesthetic miracle. Hinduism embraces beauty as divine play, or Lila, in which gods like Krishna embody joy and attraction. Buddhism warns against clinging to beauty, seeing it as impermanent and a potential source of suffering, yet its art and temples radiate profound serenity. Judaism locates beauty and holiness in the observance of commandments and in the ethical life. These traditions show us that beauty is not just about appearance, but about meaning, transcendence, and truth. Kahlil Gibran echoes this when he writes that beauty is life when life unveils her holy face, suggesting beauty is spiritual recognition. By placing beauty within the realm of the sacred, religions remind us that it shapes not just how we see, but how we believe, worship, and live. Science and mathematics offer fascinating insights into why certain forms appear beautiful. Biologists have observed that symmetry in faces and bodies often correlates with health and genetic fitness, which may explain cross-cultural attraction to symmetrical features. The golden ratio, a mathematical pattern found in seashells, plants, and even the spiral of galaxies, has been associated with perceived harmony and proportion. Some neuroscientists suggest that our brains are wired to respond positively to patterns that signal balance and order. Even in music, Fibonacci sequences and harmonic ratios appear to elicit pleasure. Evolutionary psychologists argue that these tendencies are adaptive, helping humans recognize signals of vitality or structural efficiency. However, biology is only part of the story. Cultural conditioning interacts with these innate preferences to create complex, shifting standards of beauty. Clothing, art, and media amplify certain features while downplaying others, shaping perceptions beyond raw biology. Ancient Greeks believed that mathematical proportions in the body and in art created ideal beauty, a notion reflected in their sculptures and architecture. Yet what is considered beautiful even among humans varies depending on time, place, and social context. Even newborns show preferences for faces, suggesting innate tendencies, but these are influenced by early environment and exposure. Philosophers like Kant would say that while our response may be natural, our judgment of beauty is mediated by mind and reason. Nietzsche, by contrast, might emphasize the tension between instinctive attraction and cultural narrative. In sum, biology and mathematics provide a foundation, but culture, art, and philosophy shape the architecture of beauty. Beauty is never entirely universal. It is filtered through cultural lenses. Across time and geography, ideals of beauty vary dramatically. In ancient China, small feet were prized, whereas in Renaissance Europe, voluptuous bodies were celebrated. Modern social media and fashion amplify certain features, creating standards that can be arbitrary and fleeting. Anthropologists note that beauty often communicates status, wealth, or identity within a culture. Literature also explores this tension. Toni Morrison critiques imposed beauty standards in The Bluest, showing the harm of unrealistic ideals. Shakespeare, in contrast, used his sonnets to both celebrate and subvert contemporary norms, reminding us that beauty can be playful, ironic, and resistant. Cultural constructions of beauty may serve social or political purposes. In some societies, beauty becomes a marker of inclusion or exclusion, power or marginality. Even within a single culture, beauty ideals shift over decades and generations. Modern advertising and media perpetuate narrow images, influencing self-perception and social behavior. Religious traditions also interact with cultural norms. While Hinduism celebrates divine forms, local customs shape which expressions are preferred. Beauty, in this sense, is a narrative. It is a story societies tell about value, identity, and aspiration. Yet even as culture shapes beauty, humans often feel an innate pull towards certain forms, demonstrating the dynamic tension between nature and narrative. Understanding beauty as both innate and constructed helps us question what is real, authentic, and personally meaningful. It invites reflection on how we define ourselves and others through appearances. Literature often serves as a mirror, reflecting our evolving sense of beauty. Shakespeare's Sonnet 130 famously rejects conventional comparisons, insisting that true love and beauty do not depend on superficial standards. Keats' Ode on a Grecian Urn explores the tension between permanence and transience, suggesting that art preserves beauty in a way that life cannot. Toni Morrison, in The Bluest critiques beauty ideals that harm marginalized communities, showing the dark side of imposed aesthetics. Kahlil Gibran, in The Prophet, describes beauty as a reflection of eternity, linking human perception to spiritual insight. These works highlight that beauty is both celebrated and contested in human storytelling. Novels, poems, and essays allow readers to confront, question, and redefine beauty beyond the immediate visual or sensual experience. By engaging with literature, we see how cultural values, ethical concerns, and human emotions shape what we consider beautiful. Epic poetry, religious texts, and modern fiction all contribute to this ongoing conversation. Literature invites empathy, allowing us to feel the tension between societal standards and personal perception. It also demonstrates that beauty is layered: physical, moral, spiritual, and psychological. Through narrative, writers illuminate beauty's power to inspire, challenge, and transform. Readers, in turn, interpret, negotiate, and sometimes resist these narratives, participating in the creation of meaning. Literature reminds us that beauty is dynamic, a dialogue between author, text, and audience across time. Art has long been a primary medium for expressing beauty. From classical sculptures to modern abstract works, artists explore proportion, harmony, and emotional resonance. The Greeks codified ideal proportions in sculptures and temples, believing that symmetry reflected cosmic order. During the Renaissance, painters and architects emphasized balance, perspective, and the golden ratio, reflecting both natural observation and philosophical ideals. Modern art often challenges conventional notions of beauty, suggesting that disruption, tension, and even discomfort can be aesthetically powerful. Architecture similarly reflects cultural and philosophical values. Gothic cathedrals, Islamic mosques, and Hindu temples use geometry, light, and ornamentation to elevate human perception toward the sacred. Religious spaces often aim to communicate transcendence, unity, and divine harmony. Contemporary design experiments with minimalism, color theory, and digital media, highlighting how evolving technology shapes our aesthetic sensibilities. Art also interacts with literature and music, producing multimodal experiences that engage sight, sound, and emotion. Philosophers like Kant argued that aesthetic judgment bridges sense and reason, allowing humans to experience pleasure while contemplating form. Nietzsche suggested that art provides a cathartic encounter with beauty and suffering, a necessary tension for authentic experience. Across cultures and epochs, art remains a dynamic site where humans negotiate ideals, challenge norms, and express their deepest understanding of beauty. Music and performance extend beauty into time and sound. Harmony, rhythm, and timbre create sensory experiences that transcend visual aesthetics. Musical scales, mathematical ratios, and consonants have been associated with pleasure and emotional resonance since ancient Greece. Pythagoras believed that the cosmos itself produced a music of the spheres, linking sound, proportion, and cosmic order. Dance adds the human body into the equation, translating rhythm and emotion into movement. Across cultures, performance expresses beauty in diverse ways. Japanese no theater emphasizes simplicity and subtlety, while West African drumming celebrates community and vitality. Even modern pop music and ballet combine visual, auditory, and narrative elements, showing that beauty often operates on multiple levels simultaneously. Philosophers have long debated whether music conveys objective truths or merely evokes emotion. Kant, for example, considered aesthetic judgment as reflective rather than cognitive. Religious music often seeks to connect the listener with the divine. Gregorian chants, Hindu bhajans, and Sufi qawwali exemplify this. Literature sometimes addresses musical beauty as metaphor, suggesting parallels between harmony and sound and moral or cosmic order. Neuroscience confirms that music engages reward centers in the brain, underscoring the universal appeal of beauty in sound. Performance, then, is both ephemeral and profound, a fleeting encounter with harmony that can transform perception and feeling. In the modern world, media and technology amplify beauty standards at unprecedented scale. Social media platforms often propagate idealized, curated images that shape expectations for appearance. Filters, photo editing, and AI generated faces create a hyper-real standard, blending fantasy and reality. These tools influence self perception and social comparison, sometimes causing anxiety or dissatisfaction. Advertising, film, and fashion industries reinforce these ideals, shaping cultural narratives about attractiveness, success, and desirability. Yet technology also democratizes beauty, allowing diverse communities to share authentic expressions. TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube give voice to non traditional aesthetics, enabling a broader conversation about what beauty can mean. AI research explores whether beauty can be mathematically predicted or algorithmically generated, raising ethical and philosophical questions. Philosophers like Kant remind us that aesthetic judgment is reflective, personal, and yet felt as universal. This tension becomes especially visible online. Cultural theorists argue that digital media transforms beauty into performance, emphasizing visibility and approval. Psychology shows that repeated exposure to specific images reinforces learned preferences. Despite challenges, media can also inspire creativity, community, and appreciation of diversity. Beauty remains powerful even as its forms and expectations shift rapidly. Beauty plays a central role in shaping identity. The ways we present ourselves signal social belonging, cultural values, and personal aspirations. Hairstyles, clothing, and adornments communicate not only aesthetic preference but also identity, status, and ideology. Literature, like Toni Morrison's work, demonstrates how imposed beauty standards can marginalize or oppress, particularly when intersecting with race, gender, or class. Philosophy interrogates the self in relation to appearance. Does beauty express the true self or mask it? Religious traditions often link beauty to virtue, ethical conduct, or divine favor, suggesting that external form mirrors internal character. Social media adds another layer. Curated images shape public personas, blurring authenticity with performance. Anthropological studies confirm that beauty norms vary widely, showing that identity and aesthetics are intertwined with cultural narrative. Psychology highlights how self-perception is influenced by feedback from others, reinforcing or challenging ideals. Even architecture, art, and design influence our sense of identity by surrounding us with aesthetic choices. Beauty, then, is not merely decoration. It participates in self-definition and social negotiation. It can empower, inspire, and even heal, but it can also constrain, deceive, and harm. Understanding these dynamics allows us to navigate appearance, perception, and authenticity more thoughtfully. Ethics and beauty intersect in profound ways. Philosophers have long debated whether beauty is morally neutral or whether it carries obligations. Plato argued that beauty leads the soul toward goodness and truth. Aristotle similarly linked harmony in art to moral clarity. Religious traditions often echo this. Christian theology associates beauty with virtue. Hinduism sees aesthetic experience as part of spiritual devotion, and Buddhism cautions that attachment to beauty can foster desire and suffering. Literature demonstrates how aesthetic ideals can reinforce social hierarchies, creating ethical questions about representation and power. Toni Morrison critiques the ethics of imposed beauty standards, while Shakespeare sometimes subverts them to question social norms. In contemporary society, advertising and media raise ethical issues about unrealistic portrayals and their impact on self-esteem. Ethical reflection on beauty asks whether we honor truth, authenticity, and respect for others. It also challenges creators to consider how art, media, and design affect audiences. Neuroscience shows that empathy and moral judgment are connected to aesthetic response, suggesting that beauty and ethics are intertwined in the human brain. Ultimately, reflecting on the moral dimensions of beauty encourages us to engage thoughtfully with both the world and ourselves. Technology increasingly shapes our perception of beauty. AI can generate faces, art, and landscapes according to learned standards of attractiveness. virtual and augmented reality immerse viewers in digitally curated aesthetics, expanding the possibilities of beauty. This raises philosophical questions. Can artificially created beauty hold the same meaning as natural or human-made beauty? Some argue that algorithms merely reproduce biases embedded in society, amplifying cultural norms. Others see opportunity. Technology democratizes creative expression, allowing anyone to craft and experience beauty in new ways. Digital media also accelerates cultural exchange, blending aesthetics from multiple traditions. Philosophers question whether these changes undermine authenticity or expand our capacity to appreciate beauty. Ethics enters the conversation. How should creators use AI to avoid harm or misrepresentation? Meanwhile, neuroscience shows that humans respond emotionally to simulated beauty, demonstrating the universality of aesthetic experience. Literature and film explore these themes, imagining future societies shaped by artificial aesthetics. Beauty, once tied to nature and craft, is now entangled with code and design. Understanding technology's role helps us navigate a rapidly evolving aesthetic landscape. Finally, beauty invites personal reflection. What do we find beautiful, and why? These questions encourage us to examine the intersection of innate perception, cultural influence, and personal experience. Journaling, art, and contemplation can reveal individual aesthetic priorities. Meditation on beauty, as in religious or spiritual practice, often leads to greater appreciation of life, empathy, and wonder. Philosophy challenges us to articulate and defend our judgments, cultivating discernment and taste. Literature and poetry inspire us to notice subtle forms of beauty in everyday life. Music and performance can evoke emotional responses that deepen our understanding of what resonates personally. Technology provides tools to explore and express these preferences in creative ways. Recognizing the fluidity of beauty allows us to resist rigid standards while celebrating shared human experience. It reminds us that beauty is both external and internal, cultural and individual, fleeting and enduring. Reflecting on beauty helps us understand our values, our relationships, and our engagement with the world. Ultimately, this reflection is not superficial. It shapes our perception, our choices, and our life's meaning. By questioning, observing, and appreciating, we participate in a centuries-old human conversation about what it means to find something beautiful. For those who wish to continue this exploration of beauty, these resources offer doorways into some of the richest conversations in philosophy, literature, and culture. Plato's Symposium is not only a philosophical text, but also a dramatic dialogue. It reads almost like a play, where multiple voices debate what beauty truly is. It rewards readers who enjoy philosophy woven into storytelling. Aristotle's Poetics shifts the discussion toward art and drama, grounding beauty in structure and form. It is invaluable if you want to see how early theories of literature still shape how we understand art and storytelling today. Kant's critique of judgment can be challenging but deeply rewarding, as it bridges the gap between personal taste and universal principles. Reading it helps us grapple with why we feel compelled to share beauty with others, why it feels like beauty matters beyond ourselves. Nietzsche's The Birth of Tragedy is electric in style. He makes you feel beauty's connection to life's chaos and intensity. It is a must-read if you want to see beauty not just as harmony, but as something raw and existential. On the poetic side, Kahlil Gibran's The Prophet is a slim book, but one that resonates with timeless wisdom. His meditations on beauty, love, and life are written in a style that feels like scripture, yet remains deeply human. Shakespeare's Sonnet 130 is witty and subversive, showing us that love does not need idealized beauty. It makes us laugh, but also teaches us that sincerity is its own form of beauty. Keats' Ode on a Grecian Urn is unforgettable for its meditation on art's ability to capture eternity in a single image. It is a lyrical reminder that beauty and truth are often intertwined. And Toni Morrison's The Bluest is perhaps the most urgent of these works, because it forces us to confront how beauty standards can wound and oppress, particularly in the context of race and identity. It is a haunting but necessary read. If you prefer listening, the podcast Philosophize This by Stephen West is clear, approachable, and energizing. It makes even complex ideas easy to grasp. The Partially Examined Life is more conversational, with scholars and enthusiasts debating philosophy in a lively, accessible way. It feels like sitting at a table with smart friends who wrestle with the biggest questions. On Being, hosted by Krista Tippett, broadens the scope beyond philosophy, drawing on voices from spirituality, poetry, science, and the arts. It repeatedly circles back to beauty as something essential to being human. And finally, the web opens the conversation even further. The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy is one of the best free resources available, giving reliable, in-depth entries written by scholars. The Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy serves a similar role but is often more approachable, perfect for learners starting out. And Vorisek.net adds a personal, creative layer, weaving philosophical questions back into lived experience and daily reflection. Together, these works remind us that beauty is not a solved riddle, but a continuing dialogue across centuries, cultures, and disciplines. They show us that beauty can be divine, human, fleeting, eternal, dangerous, healing, and everything in between. By engaging with them, you don't just study beauty. You become part of an ancient and ongoing conversation, one that still shapes the human condition today. As we close our journey into the question of beauty, we are left with more than a simple answer. We are left with an invitation to reflect. Beauty is not just an abstract idea. It is an experience that shapes how we see ourselves, others, and the world around us. From Plato's notion of eternal forms to Kant's careful reflections on aesthetic judgment, philosophy has long sought to uncover whether beauty is universal or deeply subjective. Religious traditions have added depth, seeing beauty as divine revelation, impermanence, or transcendence. Literature has reminded us that beauty can both uplift and wound, offering timeless poems, tragic stories, and visionary meditations that reveal its power. In today's world, social media and cultural narratives continue to shape what we consider beautiful, often blurring the line between genuine appreciation and imposed standards. Yet in our quietest moments, beauty can still move us, through a work of art, a song, a face, a landscape, or even a fleeting moment of human connection. The real question becomes not just what is beauty, but how does beauty change the way I live my life? In recognizing the complexity of beauty, we open ourselves to compassion, creativity, and meaning. We learn that beauty is not only about what pleases the eye, but also about what resonates with the soul. Perhaps true beauty is not something we chase, but something we learn to recognize in unexpected places. As John Keats reminds us, beauty may even carry truth within it, an insight that can guide us toward a richer existence. Thank you for walking with us in this exploration. And remember, philosophy is not only about abstract concepts, but about lived experience. If this conversation has sparked thought, curiosity, or self-reflection, then the journey has been worthwhile. Join us again as we continue to explore the deepest questions of human existence.